It's Monday here on The Story, and we've got a great show for you tonight and a lot to get to. Two new Multnomah County commissioners were sworn in earlier today. We've got live interviews with both of them in just a few minutes. Plus, details on a train trestle collapse in Corvallis, sending fertilizer into the water below. This new drone footage shows the mess from above. But first, I sat down with Vancouver's new police chief just a few hours ago to hear what his priorities are and what he hopes to bring to the department. It's our big story tonight.
It's an honor to be selected to lead this agency. I think people can expect great things from us. We are always going to push to have this being a very safe city to live in so that people want to.
That was Chief Troy Price. He was sworn in early last month. He's worked in law enforcement for more than 30 years and joined Vancouver Police Department in 1997. Now, prior to that, he was a police officer in Chicago, and he also told me he spent time on the East Coast when he served in the U.S. Navy. He pledges to make Vancouver the safest urban city in the state of Washington, and his history in Vancouver, he says, will only help him. So I asked him what he wants to change.
We have a criminal justice system or ecosystem that that was probably great for 40 years ago. Probably not the best for our society, the needs of our society today.
Why is that?
Well, I look at how our jails are utilized now. And jails are mainly a place to warehouse people who are pending trial or who are doing time. And we've got to kind of change our thinking on that. And the jail should be a place where your time isn't idle. We're going to help you leave this place better than you were when you came in. And so that is looking at the educational opportunities that are there in terms of building skills that people don't necessarily have, that give them the opportunity to leave. And invariably, they're going to go back to the same place they came from, the same neighborhood, the same friends, but go back to those places different from who they were when they came to jail.
Staffing is also a major focus for him. The department needs about 80 more officers to be considered fully staffed. They currently have about 230, serving a population of 200,000. Now, he says the department is working on a funding package to get those numbers up, but time will tell. I also asked him about the role the department has when responding to issues relating to the homeless crisis.
I don't look at it as the police department's responsibility or goal to attack homelessness, but we want to connect people with the services that they need that will leave them in a position of not being homeless. And so we know that there's a lot of addiction. We know that people have a lot of mental health issues that are unaddressed.
A lot of times when homeless people see an officer walk up to them, they run away, right? They immediately put their guard up. So how do you navigate that?
That's hiring the great people. And so I think that's something we have excelled at, is being very intentional about the people that we hire. We want people who are compassionate and people who understand that no one truly wants to live the way we see some folks living out on the street.
So we also hit the streets of downtown Vancouver today to see what people there wanted to ask the new police chief. Then we brought those questions directly to him.
I'd want to ask what he's going to do to decrease the over-aggressive policing that happens.
Oh, we're always concerned when we have to use force. I mean, that's a legitimate concern. And if you just look at it on the surface, that doesn't do the incident justice, nor to the decedent. It doesn't do justice to them. We need to know everything we can about these situations and find out why did this happen, and is there anything that could have been done to prevent this.
I would ask him what he plans to do with the budget and how he's going to disperse funds throughout the department, and what he's going to do about the tent cities that keep growing in sizes, and just what he's going to do with resources for those sort of situations.
There's nothing in the police budget for the homeless crisis. In terms of the budget, The way we are currently budgeted, we simply don't have enough officers. And people go, well, what if you had more? What would you do differently? So I'd like to see the budget focused on us acquiring more officers to be out there on the road, not to just handle the 911 calls, but to also be able to have those contacts with the public that actually build the relationships.
Now, I also got a question today about drug decriminalization from a Vancouver local. That, of course, is not up to the police chief and would be a question for the Washington legislature. But back in 2023, Governor Jay Inslee signed a law to make possession or using hard drugs in public a gross misdemeanor offense, a higher penalty than what it previously was in place. Now, here's what the chief had to say about decriminalization, not directly pointing at Oregon's Measure 110 experiment, but it's easy to read between the lines here.
I think people have gotten a taste for what decriminalization looks like. I think when we look around the country, whenever you've seen decriminalization, you've seen an increase in crime. You've seen an increase of drug-related deaths. And so I think people we're going through that. We're going through that evolution ourselves of going, okay, that may not have been the best way to do this. And so what does this look like now? And I see that different departments around the state are trying to find ways not around the law, but trying to find ways to still deliver that service and to still help people make that connection, especially when they're in situations where they simply aren't going to decide great things for themselves.
All right, so what's going through your mind after my interview with the chief? We love getting a look at your thoughts. So email us at thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. All right, now to Multnomah County, where a new commission is seated. Commissioners Megan Moyer and Vince Jones-Dixon were elected last year, along with Shannon Singleton. Moyer and Jones-Dixon were sworn in today. Commissioner Julia Brim-Edwards has been on the commission for a while, filling out the last term after a special election, but she was just elected to a full term and was also sworn in today. Chair Jessica Vega Peterson is not up for re-election until 2026. All right, well, joining us live now is one of the new county commissioners, Megan Moyer. She represents District 1, which includes downtown Portland. She's a native Oregonian and lives with her wife and 2 boys in Southwest Portland. Megan, welcome. It's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so talk to us. What are your top priorities?
Well, I think I share priorities with most of Multnomah County, which is that we have a homeless crisis that needs to turn around. You know, I have a special area of interest, and that is specifically to find long-term solutions for people who are experiencing homelessness, who have serious persistent mental illness. We don't have a system that really is set up to work long-term for people with mental illness, and we're seeing the results of that on our streets.
And you represent much of downtown Portland where, you know, as you mentioned, there's a homeless and addiction crisis. It's on full display there. What do you think needs to be done differently when it comes to the county's response to that crisis?
Well, I think a lot of times we're separating issues that are very connected. To just look at somebody's lack of housing and not be able to address the barriers that they're having to being housed at the same time really limits our ability to see the impact we want to see, particularly in places like downtown. If we don't have drug and alcohol treatment, if we don't have access to behavioral health care, we're not going to be able to successfully move people from homelessness and into long-term housing that's going to be successful for them. So I'm really looking at the county to step up those braided services, particularly for people who I think need a higher level of support in order to no longer be houseless.
And you spent 20 years as a social services policy expert. So, you know, and you served the most vulnerable during that time. How do you balance that line between helping people survive and enabling them?
Yeah, and I think that those are issues that we need to have hard conversations with. You know, I don't think we enable people with mental illness. I think it's a serious disability, and we need to treat it like a serious disability. If you have a physical disability, you're a senior, and you need long-term support, we provide that as a state. That needs to exist for people with mental illness. And that is currently not how we approach that issue. When it comes to people with substance use disorder, we can't have programs like diversion be successful unless there's actual treatment attached to those services. I have been a big supporter of making sure that Multnomah County is a place where when somebody says, I want treatment, that there is a system that can meet them with treatment on demand, which means within that day, we're making that initial placement. But it also means after somebody gets sober, they can get into potentially residential or outpatient treatment. If they need housing supports during that time, we've got to be able to fill that. I really want to help people be successful in their recovery, and we don't have a system right now available that's going to do that. I think we have to look beyond just, if we arrest somebody. We can arrest people for laws, and it won't actually change their situation unless we use that as an opportunity to connect people on a path for success. So I'm really wanting to make sure that whatever approach it requires for somebody to engage in services, that those services are there so that we're not re-engaging with that same person month after month, but they're actually on a path for long-term success.
I hear you. Well, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Thank you so much. And we look forward to what you're going to bring to the commission.
Thank you so much.
All right, coming up after the break, another live interview with the other new Multnomah County Commissioner that was sworn in today, Vince Jones-Dixon of District 4, representing much of East Portland. You don't want to miss it. That's when the story returns. Welcome back. Well, joining us now live is another one of the new county commissioners sworn in today, Vince Jones-Dixon, representing District 4, which includes East Portland and East County. He lives in Gresham with his wife and 2 children. And Vince, welcome. It's great to have you on.
So excited to be here, Blair. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. All right, so you represent East Portland. It's an area historically hit hard by gun violence, and I understand you have personally been affected by that crisis. How has that shaped your work when it comes to government policy around gun violence?
Yeah, it's informed everything. It's what led me to public service in the first place. My brother, Andreas, he was shot and killed 10 years ago or 13 years ago. And before he passed, he described the needs within the community. He said one of the main things that's missing is connecting community to resources. And that's what led me to get more involved in local government. And since then, we developed youth services programming that's having a major impact on our communities out in East Multnomah County, specifically in District 4.
That's inspiring, and I'm sorry to hear that. What do you think needs to be done differently when it comes to the county's response to gun violence? Can they do more, especially in these underrepresented communities like East Portland?
Yeah, actually, they are doing more now. Over the last 6 months, I know they've been partnering with our leadership, Larry Morgan, and our youth services team out in East County, specifically with the behavioral health team. So we have an opportunity to leverage the resources that the county offers, and I look forward to continuing that work with them and deepening that work.
So our community, no surprise, wants a change, not only when it comes to violence and crime, but also homelessness and addiction. What do you have to say to those in the community who have lost faith in their local government to tackle these tough issues?
Yeah, I would say you have a new commission, a new board of commissioners with very specific, I would say, very specific talents and experiences there's hope. There's so much that I want to say, but for me specifically, you have folks that have lived experiences and folks that are committed to seeing the change that we would like to see here in the county.
So the partnership and dynamics on county commission haven't always been smooth these past few years. Do you see that dynamic changing with this new commission? Do you anticipate a better partnership between all of you?
Yes, of course. I think the number one question that everyone has been leading with is how can we partner better with our partners from the city, metro, and all the way up to the state government.
And how is that?
How is that?
Yeah, you said they're leading with, how can we partner better? How do you think you can partner better?
One, starting with identifying the issues and inviting folks into the county building, and us going over to the city to work on these issues and challenges together.
Now I have to ask you, how does it feel to be the first Black man elected to Multnomah County Commission?
It is. It's something I mentioned earlier this morning. Something I don't take lightly. It is a huge honor and a really big responsibility. So I'm beyond honored and excited to represent the needs of our community, specifically the African American community here in Portland.
Are there any final words you want to leave our viewers with tonight?
One, thank you to the voters of District 4 for entrusting me to represent you, and then also thank you for your coverage, your support.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Vince. We appreciate you joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing what you bring to the commission.
Thank you.
All right, we would love to hear your thoughts on the new Multnomah County Commissioners. Did anything they said tonight stand out to you? Are you optimistic about positive change? Or do you expect more of the same of what we've seen in recent years? Email us, the story at kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. All right now in Corvallis, crews are still working to get a train car out of the Marys River. A trestle collapsed over the weekend with a freight train on the tracks. One car is in the river and 2 others are still dangling. It could be a few days before they're able to get the car out. They need to stabilize the riverbank so they can get a crane out there. All right, we talked with a man over the weekend who heard the crash happen.
I was just sitting on my couch and it sounded like it was right outside my window. I quickly looked through my window, and I thought it was like a semi going by with a bunch of metal in the back of it.
Wow. The city of Corvallis investigated and today concluded the obvious. They say the wooden trestle experienced a structural failure. Okay. The train car is operated by Portland and Western Railroad and is not the first issue with the trestle. Back in May of 2022, it caught fire.
There was a huge fire. You can see all the wood is black and just burnt to a crisp. And I didn't think they let the train go by, anymore.
The big concern right now is the environmental impact. The train was carrying fertilizer. Thankfully, the city of Corvallis gets its water from a spot 2 miles upstream, so that is still safe. The city says the railroad company is coordinating with state agencies on environmental assessments. All right, now to a live look outside on this Monday night. Finally, we saw some sunshine earlier today after rain. Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino will join us next, looking back at 2024 and forward to the forecast for the next few weeks. That's next when the story returns. All right, let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino. Matt, it was so nice to see the sun today, but those weeks of rain, they had to be good for something, right?
Well, they really were. They boosted our rainfall totals. But of course, Blair, since we're still in the early days of 2025, I thought it might be fun to look back on some of the weather highlights of 2024. So this is looking back, not forward. The ice storm. Who could forget it? I mean, that was really one of the biggest weather stories of last year. From January 12th to the 17th, Portland was hammered by those strong east winds, temperatures like 25 degrees below average. We had 2 bouts of freezing rain as the Arctic front moved through, moved south, stalled, and then came back for a second visit, and hundreds of thousands lost power, myself included. So that was definitely a low light of our weather from 2024. On the other side of the coin, though, remember July, the heat wave from the 5th to the 9th, 5 days in a row, our temperatures were between 99 and 104. And in fact, that helped make July 2024 the warmest July on record in Portland. So we had the ice storm in January, record warm July. We also had close to record warm weather in September and October. When you add it all up, 2024 was the second warmest year on record at the Portland airport, where the records go back to 1941. So that's what we did in 2024. Remember, it was an El Nino year, the opposite of what this year is, this year being a La Nina, which we will get into in just a bit. Now, back to your point about the rain, Blair. Yeah, it was wet in December. We had nearly 7 inches of rain, about an inch above average. So, you know, December is normally one of our wettest months, right? It was good for something. It boosted our rainfall total for the new water year, which began on October 1st, to well over 2 inches above average. We're now 18 inches since the 1st of October. That's a lot of water, right?
Matt, you said something I have a question about.
Yeah.
The new water year. What does that mean?
So we look at rainfall from the calendar year, but also something that we call the water year. So we look at it from October 1st through the new year to September 30th the following year. And the reason we do that is that period, the water year, beginning October 1st, encapsulates one storm season. If you look at it from January 1st, you're really getting the tail end of 1 year storm season and then the beginning of the next storm season when the rains hit again in October. But it's a very good question. So that's why we do that. So we get a sense for what the storm season was like through the fall, winter, and then into spring when things begin to settle down.
Okay, got it.
Okay, cool.
Continue.
Yes, thank you. It's a good question, though, for sure. So for the calendar year, though, we look at that as well. We were also above average by nearly 3 inches of rain. So, of course, all of this begs the question, what will happen in the rest of winter? Because it's been a pretty warm winter so far. I can tell you that from a skier's point of view. I was up on the mountain this weekend. It was rainy. It was slushy. We have good snowpack, but the snow level hasn't been very low for really since mid-November. So will it get cold again? I think very likely it will. Potentially, in fact, at the end of this month. La Nina, one of the signatures of a La Nina is a lot of variability. The jet stream is always readjusting itself. I expect that to begin to happen at the end of this month. In fact, here's the 3-month outlook from the Climate Prediction Center for January, February, and March, Blair. And it's showing, as you can see, below average temperatures forecast for the Northwest, and that is coupled with above average precipitation. So, you know, in spite of the great weather we had today, we're not done.
No.
I mean, the other shoe may easily drop. And in fact, if you think about it, Portland's all-time record coldest weather ever was in early February. So,
oh my God, we got what? A month?
Oh, we got at least a month and a half before we can begin to kind of say, okay, we're probably not going to get snow. Once we get into mid-February, the odds of getting snow at sea level in Western Oregon really drop off. They're non-zero. We've had snowfall in March. In fact, a couple years ago, remember we had that April snowstorm?
It was April, yeah.
So bizarre. That was really an outlier. But once we get into mid-February, usually on average, the odds go down for getting valley snow. I get that question a lot. Are we going to get snow this winter? I still think we will.
I hope so. I mean, I kind of like a good dusting. I'm from the Northeast, you know? I'd be crazy if I didn't.
A dusting is one thing, a foot is another. So
I can handle either.
You know what I like? I like it when the snow level goes down to about 1,000 feet and the valley doesn't get snow, because then I can still go to the mountain and ski and enjoy all that powder. Right. If it snows in town, I'm here. So we'll see what happens. Best of both worlds. Yes.
All right. Thanks so much, Matt.
You bet, Blair.
Well, that's the end of our show, guys. Thanks for watching. An Oregon History Maker special is coming your way next. And remember, you can always stream the story on your own schedule. Download the free KGW Plus app, available now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Have a great Monday night. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.